and wife at that stage. Mary's age is indeterminate, but based on what we know of marriage at the time, she was likely betrothed at 12 to 15 years of age. After this, maiden was capable of becoming pregnant. The second step of the Jewish marriage rite was moving into her husband's home after remaining a year or more with her own family. It would not be beyond imagination that the two became intimate, hormones being what they are in any generation. And so what, I say, Jesus, divinity or not, if he even existed, is not a factor in my acceptance of many of his teachings. It simply doesn't matter. Good isn't tied to divinity or the acceptance of divinity. The early church fathers worked hard to ensure they had a Messiah who matched the Old Testament prophecies. But I believe Mary was just a mom doing what all moms do. Coming forward in time, Mother's Day celebrations date back more than 150 years. In pre-Civil War days, Anne Reeves Jarvis of Grafton, West Virginia, organized Mother's Day work clubs. The clubs taught mothers how to better care for their children, acknowledging the importance of their work. Post-Civil War, she organized Mother's Friendship Day and gathered Confederate and Union mothers together to promote reconciliation after the horrible war. By every account I've read, the woman lived her faith fully. Years later, her daughter, Anna Marie Jarvis, worked hard at gaining recognition for the efforts of her mother and mothers like her. She didn't want her mother and her priorities to be forgotten. Anna Marie Jarvis held the first official Mother's Day in 1908, 3 years after her mother died. She selected the second Sunday in May to be close to her mother's own birthday. Anna Marie Jarvis lobbied legislatures and newspapers and even the President of the United States. And she finally achieved her goal. Mother's Day was declared a federal holiday by President Woodrow Wilson in 1914. Then, Anna Marie Jarvis spent decades trying to rescind the holiday. She later wrote that the recognition had been hijacked by confectioners, card makers, and florists. That the intent was to honor, her intent was to honor all mothers, not enrich schemers and profiteers who would feed off the sentiment. She was unsuccessful, as we all know. Now here's some interesting statistics as of last year that I came across. The total number of moms in the U.S. is 85.4 million, give or take. The total amount spent on Mother's Day cards is $671 million. The total amount spent on flowers, $1.9 billion. The total amount spent on mothers, eating out cards, flowers, $20.7 billion. And the average amount spent on each mother, $168.94. That's not my house, by the way, but I guess the average. Almost 35% of those mothers said they would prefer something handmade. Why is there a disconnect? In our responsive reading today, we read Julia Ward Howe's Mother's Day Proclamation from her 1872 call to action in Mother's Peace Day. I wondered if she knew of Anne Reeves Jarvis and her peace sentiments. Julia Ward Howe's efforts were short-lived. It never caught on for women to take war-making out of men's hands. Coming forward more, the UUA called for a celebration of Mama's Day as an alternative to traditional Mother's Day celebration. This is from the UUA website. With Mama's Day, we hear a call to honor all those who mother, especially those who bear the brunt of hurtful policies or who are weighed down by stigma in our culture. We celebrate trans mamas, immigrant mamas, single mamas, lesbian mamas, young mamas, poor mamas, and others. It's opportunity to take action to create the conditions so that all families can thrive. Strong Families is a national initiative of which the Unitarian Universalist Association is a part, to change policy and culture in support of all families. Their annual Mama's Day Our Way campaign lifts up and celebrates the magic and heartbreak of being a mama. So for most of history, Mother's Day has been about the woman and what the woman can do when partnered with women in like-minded endeavors. It's a call to action, not a call to breakfast. It's spending resources on improving our world instead of expanding Mama's waistline. It's about real sentiment and caring, not the canned sentiment of purchased cards. Lest we forget, mothering is more than giving birth. The role of mother, nurturer, caregiver, provider, comforter, confidant can be taken on by women or men who have never given birth and never will. As a teacher, I certainly found myself mothering in some situations. This Mother's Day, and for all Mother's Days in our future, let's celebrate all the caregivers in our lives. Let go of Madison Avenue's shaping of your perception of Mother's Day. Be non-conventional. Be you. Embrace the activism that underlies the original Mother's Days. Maybe you will set aside the second Sunday of every month to honor your own or someone else's mother. Do some good deed together, then go eat ice cream. Let me close today on a lighter note with these words from Everyone's Mother that appeared in a recent edition of the Pinewood News. These are things your mother might have said, not. I don't have a tissue with me, just use your sleeve. Let me smell that shirt. Yeah, it's good for another week. Just leave on the lights, on. It makes the house more cheery. Go ahead and keep that stray dog, honey. I'll be glad to feed him and walk him every day. Well, if Rahul's mom says it's okay, that's good enough for me. Thank you. Go honor a mothering person.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Please turn in your teal hymnal now to 1012. We will sing When I Am Frightened.
Share some
While I extinguish the chalice, please read with me from the order of service our unison reading of the mission statement. We agree to provide a safe place to celebrate diversity, draw inspiration for living better lives, foster social and environmental justice, and compassionately support each other in our spiritual searches. A very, very special thank you to Sharon Moore for your wonderful presentation, for all those who participated in the service today, our greeters Kara and Elizabeth, our lovely musician Joe Cleland, to the children who lit the chalice, and to all who helped to make the service possible. We will now have some closing words by Sharon.
One of my all-time favorite books, and something I often give as a present, is called The Book of Qualities by Ruth Gindler. In this book, she takes aspects and personifies them. So here's the opening to the book, and then I'll read one of her personifications. The wind is a gossip, not in a malicious way. She likes to move around and stir things up. She runs through the fire barefoot and has no fear of heights. She carries big blue bowls of rain with her. She plays the flute and loves all kinds of sounds. Her laughter fills the sky. The wind is a wonderful storyteller. I still remember how she introduced me to the qualities when I was a child. This one is service. Service is devotion's practical sister. She is a funny one, sort of austere and sensuous at the same time. She isn't as stern as she was as a young child, and she is not in such a hurry, but her intensity has not diminished at all. She has learned that seeds must be watered before they sprout. Some lie dormant for years. Shoots must be nurtured before they bloom. We all work in different ways. Sometimes we need to remind service to take a vacation. She sees so much that needs to be done, and she forgets that she also needs to rest. In my opinion, service would be a marvelous job counselor. If you can imagine the Employment Development Department hiring someone like her, she never asks you to do what you cannot do, but only what you most truly can do.